So when you think NASCAR, most people think big super speedways like Talladega and Daytona, maybe even popular tracks like North Wilkesboro or COTA. The one common thing about NASCAR races is that for the longest time, the majority of NASCAR races have been on the North American continent. Sure, there were those races in Japan, but that was forever ago. However, recently, NASCAR has been seeing a ton of publicity on social media because of something really strange. Videos came out of a NASCAR Cup car putting in work at the 24 hours of Le Mans. Now, for us NASCAR fans, we've known about this and been extremely stoked about it for about a year now. But I know a lot of you may not be familiar with NASCAR, and up until recently, the fact that NASCAR is racing at the world's premier endurance race. So let's do a quick dive into NASCAR at Le Mans and how they might actually be able to beat Le Mans cars. So a very brief crash course on NASCAR is that NASCAR is a traditionally American racing series where overpriced advertisement boards on wheels go in circles for hours on end. I'm not joking, some of these teams really have no shame. I just want to know who authorized this. Like, no hate, but I'm just curious as to how someone thought there would be an audience for a Kim Kardashian NASCAR Cup car. But hey, that's just me. But in all seriousness, NASCAR is one of the most underrated and shit on racing series in the whole world, particularly by knuckle-dragging degenerates from the Drive to Survive series. Anyways though, NASCAR is one of the most thrilling and high-octane motorsports in the world. There isn't many other racing series in the world where you can watch massive displacement, naturally aspirated V8s scream for hours on end, and that is something to really honestly appreciate. So this year on paper was supposed to be, in my opinion, one of the coolest years to date for NASCAR, as it's their 75th anniversary and they went all out with the return to race at the awesome track at the LA Coliseum, the long-awaited and beyond well-deserved return to North Wilkesboro Speedway, and ironing out some of the bigger issues with the next-gen Cup cars. And so far, it's been pretty good, all things considered. But the craziest announcement to come out was when NASCAR said they would be racing at the world-renowned 24 Hours of Le Mans. But why is NASCAR racing at Le Mans? Did they find oil under the Le Mans circuit or weapons of mass destruction? How is a car that for all intents and purposes designed to go in a circle not only taking on Le Mans, but absolutely mopping the floor with the competition? Now, this isn't actually the first time a NASCAR Cup car is racing at Le Mans. All the way back in the 70s, NASCAR brought 2 Cup cars to race at Le Mans, but they didn't even last to the halfway point, with one failing really early because of the low-octane fuel used at Le Mans, and the other suffering transmission issues. Now, those compared to the Cup car being used for this year's entry were barely modified. The Cup car being used at Le Mans this year is almost nothing like the Cup car you'd see on a Sunday on those fan-favorite Fox broadcasts. You know, those broadcasts that everyone loves and absolutely no one has any issues with at all? Well, anyways, to address the elephant in the room, this Cup car isn't technically competing at Le Mans. The special Hendrick Motorsports Cup car is competing under a special entry at Le Mans called Garage 56. Well, what is Garage 56? Garage 56 is a designated racing slot at Le Mans for teams to exhibit new and exciting technologies. In the past, the only vehicles with any sort of reasonable successes have been the 2 times the Nissan Delta Wing was entered, a strikingly odd-looking race car that actually kept up with the LMP2 cars, while only consuming 48% of the fuel compared to said LMP2 cars, and the other entry being a heavily modified Morgan LMP2 car that was designed for, I'm sorry if I butcher this, Frederick Saussay, a quadruple amputee, to race it. Aside from that, other entries either barely made it into the race or just flat out didn't race at all. Now, Garage 56 is classified as its own category, which comes with its perks. Think of it kind of like the Rally Group B of endurance racing. There really isn't any technical regulations, aside from the obvious safety regulations. So teams can basically let their imaginations run wild with any and all ideas, with the sky literally being the limit. However, with the perks of letting your imagination run wild, there are some obvious drawbacks as well. Garage 56 entries actually are classified in the race results, but even if they were to finish first overall, which to say is highly unlikely is an understatement, they wouldn't be allowed on the podium, as since they don't follow any set regulations. Think about it, it really wouldn't be that fair, now would it? Anyways, let's get more to the specifics of the actual NASCAR Garage 56 entry. This Cup car, like previously stated, is heavily modified over the standard NASCAR Cup car, starting with the weight savings. See, normally NASCAR Cup cars run with ballast or added weight, which is the rules in the Cup series, as this is for safety and to help promote closer racing between cars. However, since Garage 56 is racing in Le Mans in France, miles away from the closest NASCAR track, they don't need to follow Cup series regulations, so all that ballast can be removed, saving hundreds of pounds. In addition, parts that are normally made out of cheaper, more readily available materials like steel can now be made out of lighter, more expensive materials like titanium and carbon fiber. Things like the front splitter, rear diffuser, engine panels, and more have all been swapped from standard fiberglass/steel to carbon fiber. All told, this Le Mans Cup car weighs in at more than 500 pounds less than the standard Cup cars you see on a Sunday. But believe me, the fun is just beginning. The fuel tank has been enlarged to hold more than 30 gallons of fuel. This was done to help ensure it would stay competitive with the GT3 cars, because a larger fuel tank means less time in the pits and more time racing, which NASCAR and Hendrick Motorsports have made pretty clear is their benchmark, keeping pace with the GT3 cars. We'll check in and see how that's been going for them in a second. The engine itself has been heavily modified as well, as again, without having to follow Cup car rules, restrictions on engine horsepower outputs are non-existent. So the engines get a nice power bump to over 700 horsepower. That monster of a Chevy V8 has been paired to a 5-speed sequential transmission, same as the standard Cup car. However, unlike the standard Cup car, it isn't a manual shifter, it's a paddle shifter, which I love. That just makes it so much cooler to me. Anyways, the brakes have also been enhanced, going from pretty standard monoblock brakes to an all-new heavy-duty carbon set of brakes, which is all it needs because, again, this thing is feather light. It also gets some Le Mans specific goodies like headlights because, remember, this is a 24-hour race, and it's really difficult to race at night if you don't have lights. The car gets additional aero like a rear duckbill style wing, and aero on top of the car to help guide air over the car and to the wing. One more weird thing about this car is that they don't have any doors. Normally on endurance race cars, you need doors to do driver changes during the race. However, Team Hendrick has opted to keep the standard NASCAR window net setup, which I think makes it that much cooler. Well, now that we went over the car, let's see how they're performing at Le Mans as we speak. So to say the Hendrick Motorsports Garage 56 NASCAR Cup car is doing well is a massive understatement, which to seasoned race fans shouldn't be shocking. First off, the driver lineup is truly amazing. All-time legendary driver and definitely on racing's Mount Rushmore, 7-time NASCAR World Champion Jimmy Johnson is partnered with 2009 Formula One World Champion Jenson Button and 24-hour Le Mans winner Mike Rockenfeller to pilot this beast. If that wasn't hint enough that this was being taken seriously by NASCAR and not just being seen as some publicity event, the pit crew that they have assembled is the best that NASCAR could possibly get. So good, in fact, that I'm not joking, they won the pit stop competition for the GT3 class and overall placed 5th when compared with the whole competition. Now that would be impressive enough. However, the NASCAR team used a traditional floor jack, whereas the rest of the Le Mans team used pneumatic jacks, which only requires them to plug a hose into the car. The NASCAR team got the entire job done in just a mere 10 seconds, which is absolutely wild. In addition to that, fans attending Le Mans can't seem to get enough of this Cup car, with autograph lines for the drivers being miles long compared to the competition. People are obsessed with this car, and rightfully so. This is the best publicity for NASCAR for a while, and it was pretty desperately needed, as in recent history, think about it, NASCAR hasn't exactly seen a ton of good PR. But the best part of this unique Cup car is how competitive it is, or well, rather, honestly, it really isn't that competitive because it's really not competing with the GT3 cars like NASCAR said they wanted to. It's mopping the floor with them, topping the timing sheets for both practice sessions it has participated in. The first session it participated in, the NASCAR Cup car beat the next closest GT3 car by over 3 seconds, which is an eternity in racing. So it would be understandably difficult for them to really do any better. Except they didn't just do better, they almost doubled the time between them and the next closest GT3 car during the second practice session, beating out the top Ferrari 488 GT3 cars by over 5 seconds. That's really crazy. This NASCAR isn't just being used for publicity though, as this is going to be used as an opportunity for NASCAR to test new ideas and design elements for the next-gen Cup car. For those that don't know, the new next-gen Cup cars have seen some issues that need ironing out, and this is probably NASCAR's best bet, with the end goal of this race being to put in as many laps as possible. Essentially, it's a stress test session for NASCAR, but instead of just being at some track like COTA, they get added publicity of racing at Le Mans, and they get to show the world just how amazing these cars can really be and how much faster we are than our European competition. Suck it.